Good evening. How are you? Well, it's 76 degrees out. However, it's raining. Cats and dogs and herons who eat our fish in our little pond. And it's nice to have the rain because the drought has dried up some wells and the land is screaming for water. But it makes it impossible to do anything but to sit and talk this evening. And there are things going on that I think I'm sure you're thinking about, and I'll give you a couple of my thoughts about it. One is that Trump, like a child, uh, convened a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, and he he does something that he understands and that those who cover him do not. In other words, you'll see commentators giggling, oh, Trump said this or Trump said that, but they misunderstand his device. And he knows that 89.2%, I'm making that up obviously, is emotional. And that's how he gets the group. It's not on some sort of Aristotelian square of logic. It is based on, I'm getting you upset. And how am I getting you upset? I'm getting you concerned with hate and fear that these people are going to do you in. And whatever it is that you're afraid of losing or whatever it is you want to hang on to, they're either taking it from you or preventing you from getting it. And we have to do something about that. And I am your savior, and I am here to revenge what you've had to suffer because nobody else has come forward and talked to you like I have. That is the story. That's what he does. And so when he stands there like a Batman image at his place in Florida, he's talking to a lot of people. He's not talking to you or I. We say, oh, that's really funny. Well, it's not funny. It's part of his game. His game is always to keep it at an emotional place, and that the issues themselves are window dressing for what he is about. And what he is about is to just kind of shake the world. Chaos is his friend. It's not ours. And think about it. You've probably heard some of the things he said today. I'll get on to that in a second. But among them was the most hateful put-downs of America and our dream and who we are and what we do and how we are in danger of suffering. We could have, who knows, another recession, a depression even. Anything could happen. There could be world war. It would be nuclear war. He gets along with the Chinese, even though they're upset about him because of what he said about them. And this is the kind, people say this is crazy. Well, it is crazy, but a lot of people are buying into it. And so you have to address it. And I think we're very lucky that we have two experienced candidates at the top of the ticket who are doing just that. They are fighting. Trash talk is too strong. Truth talk is what they are. They're truth talkers. It's like they're spreading the word, the gospel, that this other guy has the gospel of the devil, and I'm not religious, but we have the gospel of what's right, not trite. We have the gospel that's good, not bad. We have the gospel that is about all of us, we the people, not the rich men on Wall Street or around the nation that are pulling the levers and the springs and wheels that allow them to do and manipulate what they do with their champion, their true champion, and they know what he's worth, and that's Trump. He is going to get them money, and that's all they care about. They don't care a thing about human value. Now, having said that, there are also treasures in our nation. There are people who've made great wealth and who give it back and who care to do that, and they've done wonderful things with it. But a fair question has always been, how can one person doing services really be fair if they're accumulating such huge amounts of money for what they're selling, and then on top of it are not sharing it with the labor force, the workers, however spectacular they are genetically or in terms of IQ, to ones who are very hard laborers down in steam, infected, heated, dangerous working places. And that's what we're dealing with. And we can't fly above that. And that's what I like about the two candidates. I mean, of course, Kamala has been in a more exalted position. I don't say this critically. I mean, you can hardly be vice president, live in the observatory, and have the assignment she had, and not find it difficult to now think of her as a kid on a bus dealing with a single mother. And when we look at her running mate, Tim, think of him working on a farm. And think of how his family without funds led him to believe with his dad's advice, and he did it. He went into the military. These are profiles that you don't see on Trump's side of the equation. And I don't fault somebody for having a great education, going to Yale. And I was a kid from the South Bronx, and I thought my escape route, and I say that somewhat jokingly, but I wanted to be on in some way or other. And the fact that I had decent DNA and smart and did well on tests and so forth, I managed to go to Fordham and then Columbia and get a master's and things like that. And that was my propulsion system. But I wasn't pretending to be a person who was backwoods Appalachian. And when in his case, the vice president on the Republican side is Vance is talking like, there's nothing inconsistent here. And I don't know if I have not read his book, but I watched several minutes of the movie of his book, and I can't imagine a more distasteful thing to put together about your own origin story than to paint people in a terrible way. And these actors are really good actors, and it seemed like he was shaming them at the same time he was shaming all the people from Appalachia from whom he had escaped. Okay, so I've diverted a little bit. So I think the issues are window dressing, and when it comes to Trump, not for us, because there's the construct of the government that permits the debate and the application and success of issues. And to say we're socialists or crazy liberals and so forth because we support Social Security, because we support health care, because we support Medicare and Medicaid, because we think our children should be taught, because the best citizen and person is someone who can, within the dimensions of their ability, accomplish great things for others. And that's so critically important. So if there's one thing that got me angry today, it was that we had this press conference by this ass talking about America as if it was a garbage dump, proposing a dystopic world of great suffering and so forth, unless you brought him, the Savior, our new Jesus Christ, our Savior, into the fray to take care of all the things that he knows he can handle, instead of believing what he really is, which is a thief who will steal from us everything he can, compromise the government. And he's told us, you won't have to vote again. No, because we're going to have a dictatorship. And all these giggling hosts on the various newscasts who thought it was great fun to play this entire press conference. If this guy wins, what we're going to have is people going to camps. And we're going to have people who are going to lose jobs. And we're going to see enormous pain to those people who now are, if you will, the conscience and soul of America. And he would destroy that. He is the devil incarnate. And sometimes you say that and it's an exaggeration, but it's interesting if you do the data points. This guy is the devil. So we have name calling, and that's not it. The work of a candidate who has character and who has experience is to inform others that that is the kind of leadership they personally want, that is something they can be proud of for the nation. And so we can't have a supine journalistic class that lets this go on. And I even heard one host say, "Oh, it went on so much that I stopped listening to it." But you see, that's the point. You let this guy go on and talk about how he should have debates and so forth. There's no fact checking to speak of. So he's getting an opportunity for free media to tell the whole nation while he's sitting there just minutes away from being in pajamas, standing with a sign that talks about Mar-a-Lago, as I call it, and not even the seal, because he can't put up a seal that says Trump for president or whatever you'd want him to say. So we can't allow this to happen. And his request for different debates, well, keep in mind that he should be told to go pound sand. And this Fox thing is off the scale, because What happens is you put him in a room anywhere, he wanders, he shouts, he does things, and so forth. Now, there are among us people who can handle that, and I think both people on our ticket could do that. But that's not how a debate should be. It's not because he's a lawbreaker that you can beat while he's breaking the law or decorum or the kinds of rules like he hovered behind Hillary Clinton. We can't have that. We have to regulate the means by which we consider the positions of these people. Now, so I've laid on you some pretty negative things, but let me say one other thing. The fact that this went on today shows he's hurting, shows he's afraid, perhaps for the first time in his life, because he can't find the exit door. And like those old movies I saw as a kid, the walls are coming in, the ceiling and the floor are coming up, and he's trying to figure out. He can't get his handle on a woman candidate. He doesn't know what to do with that. And he becomes kind of a stalker, and he calls them names and so on and so forth. And he says, oh, Hillary was smarter, And I don't know how you would measure that. It seemed to me they were both extraordinary women. And I spent some time with Hillary, but observing both of them over the years, as we've had an opportunity to do, and particularly when she asks questions in the Senate, it shows that the gray matter is always going. And the fact that she, when they had the announcement the other day, they got $33 million was raised. So we have a team fighting. And if the news people are going to mislead us about it's a joke, don't believe it for a minute. I don't believe she's an underdog, but I do believe that this is going to be a hard fight to the end, and anything is possible to go wrong. When you have a guy like him, who is basically a racist, really, compare himself to Martin Luther King, we're in a whole other world. I mean, that is so far out of the ken of possibility and understanding that he could be compared to Martin Luther King, either in the size of the audience or the content of the words, because the content of his soul is a dark black hole. It's nothing else. So what other things are going on? Well, there's another funny political story. Funny, more like odd than really hilarious. RFK, when he's not putting bears in Central Park, apparently claims he's living in New York. The only trouble is he's been living in California for 10 years. That's where he keeps his birds and his falconry. And he might get kicked off the ballot in New York because the address he gave is basically a friend's address. And if that happens, that would happen elsewhere. Is that big news? No, it's not big news. It does seem to me to be fair play. And it does seem to me that we remove him as a factor. And I think some people who could be misled by him, as many more others are misled by Trump, might come back to our winning team of Kamala and Tim. So I think that's exciting. And again, another footnote, I think, and I hope she does it, I hope Kamala tells him to pound sand. You got one debate. That's it. You agreed to it. I'll see you at it. Thank you very much. Really been fun doing business with you. I'm a little upset that Jack Smith has asked for an extension of 3 weeks to argue the matter of immunity. That shows weakness, in my opinion. What it probably is, it's probably dissension with our worthless Attorney General, who has a view about what that statement should be as a matter of policy. This is the kind of thing that I don't know if it's my Irish or it's me or how I was brought up or what the Jesuits taught me or my parents, but I'd walk out the door. I would not compromise this issue. Someday they're going to put a tombstone out there or a plaque somewhere. It's going to have your name and so on. And my daughter and others will survive me, and at least for their lifetime, they shouldn't have to deal with the fact that I was a coward. Jack Smith is a coward if he doesn't use the time right, if he doesn't fight for it. We had one other. We had Comey. He was a coward. And he was wrong-headed, too. And he literally, in my opinion, was the defining factor at the end of that campaign in 2016 that she lost because he had an on-again, off-again investigation. And I said on the air, and you can find it in the videos, I said that he should have resigned immediately that day because that might have given effect to the fact that he was so wrong and that he was affecting the election. So here we are again. Yes, we fight with joy. We're anxious to join the battle, but it is a fight, as Kamala says all the time. When we fight, we win. So that's what we have to do. We have to fight. And we're happy warriors. The word is warrior. And ages ago, somebody told me that the name John springs from the idea of a monk warrior. In other words, you're in the field of contemplation while you're in the fight of fighting and of war. And so we have to keep that in mind in this campaign. When we're cheering, we're not going back. When we're talking about who we are, when we're talking about freedom, when we're listening to Beyonce, we are doing something important. One person that we change, their mind in a battleground state particularly, can make a difference in this campaign. We have to think that way. And also in terms of a couple of other things that are interesting to me. One is Boeing. Boeing, with the trouble it had with normal planes close to Earth, has two, I believe it's two, quote, astronauts up in space on a spaceship they created that was supposed to come back in a couple of days, and now it's not going to come back till the end of the year or something. So I'm not going to the moon on anything Boeing makes. Sorry, guys. I'm a big fan of the space, discovery and what an exciting period it was in my young life, which drew me to physics. But, you know, if you can't get these things straight, you really should be doing something else. You needed a whole new team, and we shouldn't be paying government money to them to do this kind of stuff. So, and last but not least, there have been terrorist attacks claimed against SWIFT. And I think what we have to keep in mind is it's inconvenient that it happens now, but maybe it's more convenient to a guy like Trump. And if I had subpoena power, I wouldn't be king, but I'd sure have to be careful, I suppose. So where are we and what are we doing? We just keep going. We consider it a triumph despite the fact that nobody shut down this operation in which we had this run-on press conference by Trump and point to the fact that he's lost right now. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to put it together. And he's got a vice presidential candidate that puts vice presidential candidates all in exceedingly more significant performance status as compared to him. And we have Trump himself, who's running up on hard times. And it's like institutionally, well, I don't mean to hit him again, but damn, Jack Smith, what are you doing 3 weeks? This is a judge who's already ruled on some of the most important parts of this, and you can't figure out how to get it before her so she can decide your way, so then you can schedule a real trial date before the election. I don't know. So, yes, it's easy for me to say sitting indoors while it's raining outside late at night, but, you know, maybe that's how we keep the system on track. We, the people, say, what the hell are you doing? That encourages the government to do things it's not doing and perhaps pushes back against the wealthy people that would keep us all under their thumb because there's no limit on the profits they should get and no cost they're willing to lift when it comes to us, we, the people. So that's our fight. This is the most transparent contradiction of the individual versus the capital state that would squeeze us at every turn. And this is one of the few elections in my lifetime in which I have heard the candidates speak so clearly to that confrontation and engagement with the ballot box just ahead of us, whatever it is, 80-something days now. So that's what I have to say. If you don't agree with me, of course you don't have to agree with me. If I caused you to think, that's terrific. And if you have remarks, I try to read them all. Lately there have been a lot, so I haven't gotten through all of them. So it's not that my silence is not a comment, if that's what it appears to be. My my silence is I couldn't get to it. But I mean, I go through the list. You can see it takes time to do it. And I read what people say and I try to respond. And it teaches me. It's as close as I can get to a dialogue with you. So I enjoy it. And I think, in a way, some have written and spoken to me and said how this makes a difference to them. It makes a difference to me, too, because I'm engaged. Today I went I went swimming, and this woman, Connie, wanted to share the lane with me. And I said, well, you just give me a few more minutes. I have some backstroke and breaststroke, and I'll be out of here. And I said, really, it's like 5 minutes. So she said, fine. So I said, what's your name? She said, Connie. And then I gave her a fist bump because I'm pretty careful still because of Holly especially, but just generally. And she says, I know you're John Flannery. And she follows. So occasionally I have this dialogue with people because of this interchange we're having. And so let's keep it up. And I have no plans to stop it. Sometimes the rain, my representation of clients, my rallying around issues take me away from this. And I try to keep it to a minimum because this has become important to me as it may be to some of you. So all the best. Good evening. Hope to see you tomorrow on the trail.